Warsaw is in talks with Paris about the potential use of France's nuclear capabilities to protect European allies, stated Prime Minister of Poland Donald Tusk. According to him, Russia is actively rearming and preparing for a full-scale military confrontation, not only with Ukraine but also with someone much bigger. The Prime Minister of Poland believes that in the current situation, Europe could be on the brink of war in the coming years.
We need to look more boldly towards the future when it comes to weapons technology, and we are seriously discussing with the French their idea of a nuclear umbrella over Europe. It is time for Poland to, using the means it has, as well as its own experience and the battlefield experience of Ukraine, boldly consider our capabilities regarding the most advanced weapons. We face a very serious arms race. It is a race for security, not a race to war.
President of France Emmanuel Macron proposed using France's nuclear arsenal for deterrence in Europe in an address on March 5th. He stated that Russia poses a threat to the entire continent.
Notre dissuasion nucléaire nous protège.
Our nuclear deterrent forces protect us. Since 1964, they have always played a role in maintaining peace and security in Europe. I have decided to initiate strategic discussions on protecting the entire continent using our nuclear weapons. The decision will depend on the leaders and commanders of European countries.
According to experts, France had 290 nuclear warheads in 2023. 50 of them are mounted on air-launched cruise missiles. This can be carried by French multi-role fourth-generation Dassault Rafale fighter jets. France has the fourth largest nuclear arsenal in the world. Only Russia, the United States and China have more warheads.
One way or another, if the U.S. were to reduce its presence on the European continent in terms of security, it would undoubtedly raise the question, who will provide the nuclear umbrella over Europe? And besides France, there are no serious alternatives. The U.K. is not an EU member, and part of its nuclear warheads are carried by American carriers, so it's not a fully sovereign solution. Therefore, France is the only option here.
Warsaw is also considering withdrawing from international conventions banning landmines and cluster munitions. The Prime Minister of Poland said the country intends to use all available means to ensure its security given the threat from Russia. Poland is also planning to increase the size of its armed forces. Currently, the Polish army has 200,000 soldiers. With the reservists, it should reach up to 500,000, according to Donald Tusk. Therefore, Warsaw is working on a large-scale military training program for all men of conscription age.
If I were to suggest a return to basic compulsory service, I would say this. We have several models. One of the valued ones is the Swiss model, and that is that it is not mandatory, but there are incentives that could make men decide to undergo annual training, and it is not just symbolic, not fake. And we will be ready with this model in the next few weeks.
Poland allocates just under 5% of its GDP to defense, a record figure for NATO countries, said President Andrzej Duda. Military spending will reach 5% of GDP in 2026 and possibly as soon as 2025, the country's defense ministry said.
Poland has quite a serious army. Poland has strong armored forces, good artillery saturation, and a reserve training system. In many ways, Poland is a country that many EU member states could learn from when it comes to ensuring their own security and taking a responsible approach to armament. Moreover, in Warsaw, they understand that a strong national army is an additional resource for their image and sovereignty within the EU.
Prime Minister Donald Tusk emphasized that Poland's security is directly linked to the future of Ukraine. If Kyiv maintains its sovereignty, independence and pro-Western course, it will ensure greater security for all of Europe. Reported by Alexandra Zaslavas, Nikita Skoblikov, UATV News. The President of France called on allies to make strategic decisions to defend Europe. He also proposed introducing joint European funding to increase arms purchases and production. Emmanuel Macron is convinced that it will be difficult for Europe to have a unified army. However, he believes it is possible to create shared defense capabilities. Otherwise, he argues, Europe will not be able to become more autonomous.
As Europeans, we must increase our military efforts. We, the French, have a strong army, the most effective in Europe. We will need to strengthen our defense and our security. In the coming weeks, I want to organize a large-scale European funding initiative to increase defense procurement and production.
France must also increase its defense budget share, President Macron is convinced. During a meeting with parliamentary factions and groups, he suggested that the National Assembly, the country's parliament, consider increasing defense spending to 5% of gross domestic product. He reminded them that in the 60s, 70s and 80s, during the Cold War, France had similar levels of defense spending. However, after the fall of the Berlin Wall, investments were reduced. Today, France spends about 2% of its gross domestic product on defense.
The time is coming when we will have to invest even more, both in France and across Europe, to strengthen our defense and security. I'm not sure if 5% is the right figure for France, but in any case, we will have to raise these expenses. I do not rule out launching a savings mechanism. We are entering an era where each of us should ask ourselves, what can we do for the French nation and the Republic? In this sense, such a savings mechanism would be a very good idea.
In recent days, Emmanuel Macron has had numerous conversations with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. The two leaders have coordinated their diplomatic efforts for the immediate future.
During the conversation, the presidents of Ukraine and France shared details of their contacts with other world leaders and coordinated positions, joint plans, and next steps. Volodymyr Zelensky and Emmanuel Macron also discussed in detail the views on security guarantees. From a publication on the website of the Office of the President of Ukraine,
in particular, the leaders discussed preparations for Emmanuel Macron's visit to Washington. According to the French president, he intends to meet with Donald Trump and urge him to be weak in the face of Putin, as this is not in Washington's interest. How can you be authoritative in the face of China then? Macron asked.
He, Macron, will come to the United States to speak for the Europeans and to say that Ukraine's future cannot be decided without them. Benjamin Haddad, the Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs of France, from a publication in Le Figaro.
The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Keir Starmer, is also preparing to visit Washington. Information about the upcoming visits of Macron and Starmer was confirmed by the White House. They stated that the leaders of France and the UK would visit the United States separately, and the dates for their visits have been set.
And next Monday, the President will host France's President Emmanuel Macron. And on Thursday, the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer will visit the White House as well.
According to The Telegraph, the Prime Minister of the UK will urge Donald Trump to keep American fighter jets and missiles ready in Europe in case Russia violates the terms of any potential ceasefire. Additionally, Starmer is expected to bring the United States a strategy for deploying European troops in Ukraine.
Sir Keir Starmer will present Donald Trump with a plan to send fewer than 30,000 European troops to Ukraine in an attempt to secure American protection for the deployment. The Prime Minister is expected to detail how European forces could police any ceasefire deal brokered by the U.S. President when the pair meet in Washington next week, from a publication in The Telegraph.
The question of a peacekeeping mission in Ukraine is also being considered in Paris. According to Emmanuel Macron, France would likely be willing to send troops to guarantee peace only if it's achieved through negotiations. Reported by Alexandra Zaslavets, Valeria Nikipelova, UATV News.